Okay, so you're prepping for an instructional designer interview, and you want to be totally ready, like completely ready. We've got all this great stuff from RoleCatcher Career Guides. They've got these amazing interview guides and even AI tools to like help you fine-tune your answers. So think of this deep dive as like your fast track to feeling super confident going into that interview. Let's see what we can find to help you land that dream job.
The really cool thing is with RoleCatcher's AI, we can make this prep really specific to your career level and goals. So it's not just general advice. It's about, putting your best foot forward.
I love that. So first, let's make sure we're all starting on the same page. What exactly does an instructional designer do?
They are really the masterminds behind how we learn in this digital world. Think about it. All those online courses, interactive simulations, even those explainer videos that we all rely on.
Mhm.
Instructional designers use multimedia and technology to make learning really engaging and effective.
And this isn't some like niche field either. The Bureau of Labor Statistics projects 10% growth from 2020 to 2030.
Yeah.
So you're entering a field that's hot and only getting harder.
Exactly, which is why acing this interview is so key. Now, RoleCatcher has this incredible repository of potential interview questions, and they're categorized by skill and experience level. They even have this AI tool that gives you personalized feedback on your answers. It's almost like having an interview coach in your pocket.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's really cool. So let's jump into some of those sample questions. First up, tell me about your experience with different instructional design models. I imagine this comes up a lot.
Oh, yeah, it's classic. The interviewer is checking your foundational knowledge here. Do you know your 80 die from your SAM, your Agile from your Bloom's taxonomy? More importantly, can you explain how you've actually used these models in your work?
Okay, so it's not just like rattling off a list of models. It's showing you can actually apply them.
Exactly. Don't just say, oh, I'm familiar with 80. Walk them through a project where you used it. Highlight how each stage analysis, design, development, implementation, evaluation helped you create a successful learning experience.
Okay, that makes sense. And I bet they'll have some follow-up questions too to see if you like truly understand the nuances of each model.
Oh, definitely. They might ask you to compare and contrast different models or to explain why you chose a particular model for a specific project. This is where that deeper understanding really shines.
And this is where RoleCatcher's AI feedback can be so helpful, right? You can practice these questions, get tailored advice on how to make your responses even stronger.
Exactly. It's like having a mock interview with a super smart feedback system.
Okay, I like that. All right, next question. Imagine you're designing a training program for a team that's resistant to change. How would you approach this? This sounds tricky.
It is, and it's intentionally so. The interviewer is testing your problem-solving skills, your understanding of adult learning principles, and your ability to handle challenging situations. They want to see how you apply your skills to a real-world problem.
So how do you even begin to tackle this? I mean, do you acknowledge the elephant in the room? That people hate change?
Absolutely. Start by showing empathy. You could say something like, resistance to change is totally natural. It's important to understand the team's concerns and address them proactively. Then, outline your strategy.
Okay, but what would that strategy be? Everyone learns so differently. How do you design something that works for everyone? Especially when they're already hesitant.
Well, that's where your knowledge of adult learning principles comes in. Maybe you involve the team in the design process to give them ownership. Maybe you highlight the benefits of the training, how it will make their jobs easier. Or maybe you use a blended learning approach that caters to different learning styles.
I see. And of course, concrete examples from your own experience will make your answer even more compelling.
Exactly. If you've successfully navigated a similar situation before, share that story. It shows you can walk the walk, not just talk the talk.
I get a common follow-up question here would be about measuring the success of the training.
Oh, absolutely. Be ready to discuss evaluation methods, surveys, quizzes, performance reviews, and how you would tie those back to the original learning objectives. This shows you're thinking about the big picture and the long-term impact of your work.
All right, on to a more technical question.
Yeah.
This one's, what experience do you have with different e-learning authoring tools? I imagine this is a must-ask for any instructional designer.
It is. That's a bread and butter question. They want to know which tools you're comfortable with. Articulate Storyline, Adobe Captivate, Rise 360, and how you've used them to create engaging content.
Okay, so again, it's not just about listing the tools, but showcasing how you've applied them.
Exactly. Don't just say, oh, I'm proficient in Articulate Storyline. Describe a project where you used it. Highlight specific features that helped you achieve a particular learning objective. Did you use branching scenarios to personalize the learning experience? Did you incorporate interactive elements to keep learners engaged?
Right. And I imagine any certifications or specific training you've completed in those tools would also be worth mentioning.
Absolutely. It shows you're committed to staying up to date with the latest technology and that you have the skills to back it up.
Now, I know RoleCatcher's Career Guide dives into some of the pros and cons of this field. Before we go further with the sample questions, maybe it's worth touching on those, give our listeners a little bit of a broader picture.
That's a great idea. Let's start with the good stuff. Instructional designers often have flexible work schedules, often remote, which is a huge perk for a lot of people. And, as we mentioned, the demand is high, meaning job security is a real plus.
Yeah. And let's not forget the impact. You're literally shaping how people learn and grow, which can be incredibly rewarding. But let's be real, no job is perfect. What are some of the challenges that RoleCatcher highlights?
Well, one is keeping up with technology. This field is constantly evolving, so you need to be a lifelong learner, always exploring new tools and techniques. The other is designing for diverse learners. Not everyone learns the same way, so you need to be adaptable and creative in your approach.
But like you said, these challenges are also opportunities. By acknowledging these potential downsides in the interview, you can demonstrate your proactiveness and commitment to continuous learning.
Exactly. You could say something like, I know keeping up with technology is crucial, so I regularly attend webinars and workshops to stay ahead of the curve. That kind of statement goes a long way.
All right, back to those sample questions. Let's dive into one that focuses on designing for diverse learners. Describe a time when you had to adapt your instructional design approach to meet the needs of a diverse group of learners.
This one's all about showing your ability to create inclusive and accessible learning experiences the interviewer wants to see. That you understand the importance of catering to different learning styles, cultural backgrounds, and accessibility needs.
So what's the key to crafting a compelling answer here? Should you just talk about being aware of different learning styles? Or do you need something more concrete?
You need to show, not tell. Choose a specific project where you had to really think about these factors. Maybe you were designing a course for a global audience, and you had to consider language barriers and cultural sensitivities. Or maybe you had to incorporate accessibility features for learners with disabilities.
I bet this is where those functions and core abilities listed in RoleCatcher's Career Guide come in handy. They talk about skills like communication, critical thinking, and problem solving, all essential for tackling these types of challenges.
Absolutely. Those core abilities are the foundation of good instructional design.
Okay, let's get strategic. What are some potential follow-up questions they might ask after you've shared your example?
They might ask about specific accessibility guidelines, like WCAG, or how you evaluate the effectiveness of your designs for different learners. They might even ask about how you handle feedback from learners who feel their needs aren't being met.
So it's all about showing you're thoughtful, adaptable, and learner-centered in your approach.
Exactly. Now, ready to dive into another question?
Absolutely. Hit me with it.
Okay, how about this? How do you ensure your training materials are aligned with the learning objectives? This one's all about demonstrating your understanding of assessment and evaluation principles.
Okay, so they're checking that you can create assessments that actually measure whether the learners are achieving those desired outcomes.
You got it. A strong answer would highlight your process for designing assessments that map directly to those learning objectives. Mention different methods you might use: quizzes, simulations, performance-based tasks, and how you analyze the results to identify areas for improvement.
And this goes back to those core abilities we mentioned earlier, right? Critical thinking, problem solving, data analysis. Those are all crucial for effective evaluation.
Exactly. They want to see that you're not just designing for the sake of designing. You're thinking about the impact of your work and how to measure its success.
Awesome. All right, let's wrap up this first round of questions with one that focuses on technology. What are your thoughts on the use of gamification in instructional design?
Ah, yes. This is a hot topic. The interviewer is gauging your understanding of this trend and how to apply it effectively. It's not just about slapping on some badges and leaderboards. It's about strategically using game mechanics to enhance learner engagement and motivation.
How do you walk that fine line between making learning fun and ensuring it's still effective?
By focusing on those learning objectives, gamification should never distract from the core purpose of the training. Share your knowledge of different techniques, points, levels, challenges. But more importantly, explain how you would use those elements to reinforce the learning goals, not overshadow them.
Right. And I bet they'll want to hear some concrete examples of how you've used gamification effectively in the past.
Absolutely. Share a story about a time you used gamification to boost learner engagement, or to provide personalized feedback that motivated them to learn more.
This has been an awesome start. We've covered some really crucial ground already. But before we dive into more of those sample questions, I want to remind you about RoleCatcher's AI tools. These can be real game changers in your job search.
Absolutely. Don't forget, you can use RoleCatcher to tailor your resume, get personalized feedback on your interview answers, even practice your delivery with video recording. It's like having a personal interview coach at your fingertips.
And that's all before you even step foot in the interview room. We've still got more to cover, so stay tuned for the next part of our deep dive.
Welcome back to our deep dive into instructional designer interview prep.
All right, we've tackled some big questions already. But these RoleCatcher resources have so much more.
Let's keep that momentum going. Practice makes perfect, and the more we cover, the more confident you'll feel going into that interview.
Okay, here's one that gets into the nuts and bolts of the job. Walk me through your typical process for developing an e-learning course. This seems like a chance to show off that systematic approach.
It is. Think of it like you're showing them your mental roadmap, how you take a concept from idea to finished e-learning product. So hit those key stages: needs analysis, learning objectives, storyboarding, content creation, multimedia integration, testing, and revisions.
So it's showing you've got a process, not just winging it.
Exactly.
But do I need to get super detailed about every single step?
Not necessarily. Tailor it to the job you're interviewing for. So if they're looking for strong project management skills, you want to highlight how you manage timelines, resources, and stakeholders. If it's more of a creative role, you'll want to emphasize the design and storytelling aspects.
Makes sense. I bet a common follow-up here is how you incorporate learner feedback into that process.
Definitely. Be ready to discuss methods like surveys, focus groups, or even informal check-ins throughout development. It shows you're learner-centric, not just locked in your own design bubble.
All right, let's switch gears a bit. This one is a classic behavioral question. Tell me about a time you faced a difficult design challenge and how you overcame it. Everyone loves a good story, right?
They do, but it's not just about entertainment. The interviewer is really digging into your problem-solving skills here, your resilience, how you handle pressure when things go wrong.
Because let's be honest, something always goes wrong in projects.
Exactly. So pick an example where you hit a real obstacle. Explain the situation clearly, the actions you took, and this is key, the positive outcome you achieved. Did you meet a crazy deadline despite a setback? Did you find a creative workaround when technology failed you?
It's about showing you can think on your feet and adapt.
Right. And be ready for that. What did you learn?
Yeah.
Follow-up. Reflecting on the lessons learned shows that growth mindset, which is gold in any field.
Okay. Back to more technical skills.
Yeah.
How do you ensure your training materials are accessible to learners with disabilities?
This feels especially crucial in today's world. It is. It's essential for any instructional designer. This question speaks to your understanding of accessibility guidelines, a commitment to inclusivity.
Yeah, it's not just about checking boxes. It's about genuinely designing for everyone.
Absolutely. Demonstrate your knowledge of WCAG, the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, and other standards. Talk about making content perceivable, operable, understandable, things like closed captions, alt text for images, clear navigation, keyboard accessibility.
It sounds like this goes beyond just the design phase. It's about testing and evaluating too.
Absolutely. Do you use screen readers to experience the content from a different perspective? Mentioning those real-world practices really makes an impression.
And I imagine they might follow up by asking about designing for different learning styles as well.
Yes. This ties into that adaptability we've been talking about. Be ready to discuss how you cater to visual learners, auditory learners, kinesthetic learners, mixing up your methods to create a truly engaging experience for everyone.
Now, RoleCatcher's Career Guide talks about the need for instructional designers to be on top of industry trends. How can we weave that into the interview, showing we're not just knowledgeable, but passionate about the field?
That's where bringing up innovative approaches can really make you shine. For example, the guide mentions the rise of interactive multimedia. So if you've used tools like Articulate Storyline to create branching scenarios or simulations, talk about that.
So it's not just about listing software. It's about connecting it back to why it matters for learning.
Exactly. It shows you're keeping up with the latest and greatest, not stuck in outdated methods.
Okay, next question. How do you build relationships with subject matter experts to gather content for your courses? This feels like the people skills side of the job.
It is. SMEs are your goldmine of knowledge, but they're busy people. The interviewer wants to see if you can effectively collaborate with them to turn that raw expertise into engaging learning material.
So it's about more than just sending them an email saying, give me all your info, right?
Way more. Highlight your communication skills, active listening, asking the right questions, showing respect for their expertise. Mention strategies like interviews, workshops, or collaborative tools to gather information.
I love how RoleCatcher emphasizes storytelling in the interview. This feels like the perfect question to use a real example.
Absolutely. Did you win over a skeptical SME? Did you navigate conflicting information from multiple experts? Those stories make your skills come alive.
And what about those tricky follow-up questions? What if they ask how you handle disagreements between SMEs? Or when the content you get is just plain boring?
Be prepared to discuss your conflict resolution skills, your diplomacy. Maybe you facilitate a discussion to reach consensus. Maybe you get creative in how you present the information to make it more engaging. It all comes back to those core abilities: problem solving, communication, and a dash of resourcefulness.
As we go through these, I keep noticing this theme of tying everything back to those learning objectives.
It's the North Star of our work. Every decision, content, design, assessment, should flow from those objectives. The interviewer wants to see that you're not just creating flashy courses for the sake of it. You're laser focused on achieving specific learning outcomes.
Yeah, that's a great reminder. Especially when you're feeling pressured in the interview. It's not about showing off, it's about demonstrating your understanding of what truly matters in instructional design.
All right, ready for a question that digs into that evaluation piece?
Always. What do we got?
Okay, how about this? How do you evaluate the effectiveness of your training programs? This one's guaranteed to come up. They want to know if you have a solid grasp of evaluation methods and how you use data to improve your work.
So it's not enough to just create a course and hope people like it. We need to prove it's actually working.
Exactly. Talk about different levels of evaluation. Kirkpatrick's model is a good one to mention here. Reaction, learning, behavior, results. Explain the methods you use at each level. Surveys, pre- and post-tests, observations, performance data.
It's about showcasing that data-driven mindset, which is so valuable these days.
Absolutely. And as always, concrete examples make your answers stand out. I analyzed learner feedback and saw X trend, so I made Y change to the course. That kind of statement shows you're not just talking about evaluation, you're actually doing it.
I think some people get intimidated by this side of things. Any advice for those who aren't natural data nerds?
Don't overthink it. The key is to show that you understand the importance of gathering evidence, analyzing it, and using it to inform your decisions. RoleCatcher's resources can help you break down this seemingly complex topic to manageable chunks. They even have sample reports and templates you can review to get a better feel for it.
Oh, that's great to know. And I imagine this ties back to those core abilities we keep talking about. Critical thinking, problem solving. Because sometimes the data reveals unexpected results.
It does. And that's where your adaptability and willingness to learn come in. You might discover that a particular module isn't landing as well as you thought, or that learners are struggling with a certain concept. The ability to adjust your approach based on the data is what separates good instructional designers from great ones.
With all these different questions and skills to consider, it's easy to feel overwhelmed. But looking at RoleCatcher's career guide, it actually lays out a pretty clear path for growth in this field.
It does. They break down the typical progression from entry-level to senior roles, outlining the responsibilities and skill set needed at each stage. It's like a roadmap for your career journey.
So whether you're just starting out or aiming for a leadership position, there's a clear direction.
And that continuous learning piece we keep emphasizing is what will propel you forward. By staying curious and actively seeking new knowledge, you ensure your skills stay relevant and in demand.
All right, we've covered a ton of ground already, but there's still more to come. Stay tuned for the final part of our deep dive, where we'll tackle even more questions and discuss those final touches that can make you truly stand out in the interview. Okay, we're back for this final part of our Instructional Designer Interview Prep Deep Dive. Feeling prepped and ready to tackle those questions.
You should be. We've covered a ton of ground already, but there are a few more kind of like nuggets of wisdom to unearth from these RoleCatcher resources. They can really help elevate your interview game.
Awesome. Let's keep digging. How about this question? Describe your experience with different learning management systems, LMS. This feels like a pretty tech-savvy question.
It is. They want to know you're comfortable with those platforms that deliver the e-learning content. So Moodle, Canvas, Blackboard, even custom-built systems. Have you just used them, or have you also done the administrative side, setting up courses, managing enrollments, running reports?
Yeah, it's about showing you've got that depth of understanding, not just clicking through as a learner.
Right. And bonus points if you can mention any integrations you've worked with, like video conferencing tools or learning analytics dashboards. It shows you get how an LMS fits into the bigger picture, that whole learning ecosystem.
And I bet those tricky follow-up questions will dig into any challenges you've faced.
Definitely. Be ready to talk about those tech hiccups, user adoption issues, integration nightmares you've encountered. It's less about having like a perfect record and more about showing your problem-solving skills, your ability to find creative solutions.
Okay, time to address the elephant in the room, the dreaded salary question. What are your salary expectations? How do we handle this one without fumbling?
It's a question that can make anyone squirm. But remember, they're asking because they need to know if your expectations align with their budget.
So it's a bit of a dance. We need to show our worth without pricing ourselves out.
Exactly. Before the interview, do your research. Sites like Glassdoor or Salary.com can give you a sense of typical salary ranges for instructional designers with your level of experience in your area.
So it's about finding that sweet spot, knowing the market rate, and then confidently stating what you deserve.
Right. You can provide a range. Based on my experience and the current market, I'm looking for something between X and Y. If they push for a specific number, you can always deflect slightly. I'm open to discussing this further once we've explored the role and responsibilities more deeply.
It shows you're more interested in finding the right fit than just chasing the highest number.
Exactly. Now, for a question that often comes up towards the end, it gives you a chance to really shine. Do you have any questions for me? This isn't just a formality, it's a golden opportunity.
Yeah, it's our chance to kind of turn the tables, gather some information, show we're genuinely interested.
Exactly. Don't just say, nope, I think you've covered everything. Prepare a few thoughtful questions in advance. It shows you've done your homework and are genuinely curious about the company, the team, the role itself.
Things like, what are the company's learning and development goals? Could you describe the team culture and opportunities for growth? Or what are the biggest challenges facing the person in this role?
Those are great. Those kinds of questions not only give you valuable insights, but they also show your engagement, your initiative. It sets you apart from other candidates.
And as we wrap up this deep dive, it's worth circling back to how RoleCatcher's AI tools can give you an edge throughout this whole job search process, not just during the interview.
For sure. From tailoring your resume to specific job descriptions, to practicing your interview answers and getting personalized feedback, RoleCatcher has this comprehensive suite of features. It can really elevate your game.
It's like having a career coach and a tech-savvy assistant all rolled into one, helping you put your best foot forward from the moment you apply.
And with so many of these resources available for free, there's no reason not to take advantage.
Whether you're just starting your instructional designer journey or are a seasoned pro looking for that dream role, these resources combined with all the prep we've done today can help you land that job. Remember, confidence comes from preparation and practice. You got this.
We're rooting for you.